This is all about how we can kickstart 2025 in real estate investing. And you're looking for something new, or maybe you've been in the business, but hey, something's got to change. Maybe I need to diversify strategies. Maybe I need to get some marketing ideas. What is it that's coming in 2025? I'm going to give tips for both the person that's just getting started. And then you also have the experienced person that maybe you've done 10 deals or 50 deals. Of course, we got a lot of other cool things to share with you. For those of you that may not know who I am, my name's Chris Goff. I'm a seasoned investor with over 500 deals closed. I'm a dedicated real estate coach, three-time best-selling author, and I'm also the co-founder of REIPro, an executive film producer. I combine innovation and experience to really empower others. And my true passion lies in helping others achieve their real estate goals and unlock new opportunities. So just a little bit about me. If you haven't gone to my website, you can download this book. Collaborated with several really good authors here. Big name Brian Tracy. He had interviewed me years ago, and then lucky enough to actually write a book with him. When I got started, people asked me, what books did you read? Outside of real estate, Brian Tracy was like the first personal development book, I guess you'd say, because I realized that I need to change my thinking if I were going to change everything else. One of his books, Maximum Achievement, again, all of the principles apply even in today's world. Just to have the honor to do that, you download a copy of that, go straight to your email. You can save it to your computer. You can see these are home sales. And why is that important? Obviously, it's important for many reasons. And I know a lot of our deals are what we call off-market deals. Off-market deals are usually the big deals, right? Versus on-market. But on-market deals, where the majority of deals close, gives us kind of an idea of what's going on, what happened. And as you can see, this goes back to 2005, not super relevant. But when you look at the last year or two, you can see the decline. Obviously, we know reasons why. We'll talk about it on the next screen. And then we look at, you can see 2024 kind of rebounded from 2023, which was super bad as far as home sales. And then the prediction of what we could potentially see in 2025. I don't think a lot of people know. This is a strange time. And I say it's strange because we actually have a shortage of homes for people, but we have a tremendous amount of homes that are for sale. And obvious reasons are interest rates. So when you have people that can't afford it, you don't buy, you rent, right? You do other things, you get creative. Most people don't get creative, but we're going to talk about getting creative tonight. You have a shortage of homes. So as interest rates are projected to come down, you're going to have more buyers, but I kind of have the 2024 highlighted here. But if you just kind of shoot across, you go back to 05, 06, 08, we're kind of right in that mark. And then you could see the interest rates slowly coming down. I don't think we'll ever see interest rates as low as we did in 21. It's like the 20 to 21 timeframe. We may never see that again in our lifetime. This goes back to 1982. I'm going to show you how to take advantage of some opportunities that may have a lower interest rate versus you going to borrow money at a much higher interest rate. We're going to kind of go through that part of it through this presentation. Now, I did pull up realtor.com, kind of their forecast. Everybody's got a forecast. They do have a lot of stats, obviously. Again, we won't know till we get there, but this is kind of their prediction. So if we look at mortgage rates, you'll see that they'll come down. As the economy gets better, the interest rates will get better, period. That's what's going to happen. Then they look at home sales. And although that's kind of important to us, it's not the real big thing that I look at as an investor, because I understand a very simple point. And it's the simple fact that we have a shortage of homes. It goes back to basic supply and demand stuff, right? So you have a shortage of properties, valuations go up. Isn't it funny how prices really haven't come down, even though we have a lot of houses on the market? It's really a buyer's world. Now, it could be a different world wherever your world is in the United States, but in the majority of areas, it's a buyer's market. They get to pick and choose. It's just strange that we live in this supply-demand issue, but at the same time, the number one factor of preventing people from buying is number one, the mortgage rates, right? Interest rates. You can kind of see their predictions. And this is just one chart that I pulled. Everybody's got a prediction. I'm going to share with you through this presentation a strategy that I feel that's you really need to focus on. That's definitely going to be a home run for you. Now, those are just getting started. This is the part you really want to pay attention to. If you're just thinking about getting into real estate, I'm going to give you some of the what I call business basics of what you need to do to get set up properly. You can expand on this. I would look at this as this is what I require all of my students to do. Obviously, first thing is just coming up with a company name. This could be tough, because it seems like everybody's got the perfect name out there. Sometimes you need to be creative. Some things, I look at it and say, okay, no, don't use that word. Don't use this word. Such words as if you're an investor, don't use the word realty. Looks like you're an agent, unless you are an agent and that's what you're doing. I say to people, sometimes don't use your name because you never know. 5 years from now, you might decide to sell the business, but now you got to sell your name with it. Coming up with a company name is really the first thing. Next, we need to set up a business entity. Now, in most cases, I want you to set up an LLC, and this really can be done online. Places like LegalZoom or Zen Business, Busy. You could have a local attorney, and some people can even just do it themselves. Your specific situation could be different. An attorney, an accountant would be best to advise you on what type of entity it is. But I can tell you the majority of people, it's going to be an LLC, and it doesn't matter what state you're in. Next is a logo design. I think a lot of people kind of forget about this part. Somebody taught me years ago, in order to remember something for the rest of your life, you have to have two things. The first thing is you have to have an image of it. And the second part of it is you have to have action. When I do a live event, I ask people, have you ever been into a car accident? People say, yeah. And I say, what color was your car? They tell me. What color is the other car? They tell me. What part of the car did you hit? Did you go to the hospital? They could tell me all the details about it. And then I come back and say, what was the first thing that I said today when I walked in? And they can't remember. People remember things based off of two things, an image and action, right? So this is kind of the first part of remembering things. I know it sounds stupid, but when you see McDonald's sign, you know what it is. There are tons of companies out there that can help you design a logo if you're not very good at it. Some of those companies, Fiverr is probably one of the big ones. Another one that we probably have a little bit, I think, better quality is a company called Design Crowd, where you put in, here's how much I'm willing to spend. You have multiple different designers compete. Whoever wins the actual money, which is nice. Obviously, a web page, landing page. I know this may sound basic, but years ago, someone told me that if you don't have a website, you're not in business. I would recommend companies, WordPress, Wix, Lead Pages is really good for landing pages. What you're probably going to find as one of the biggest challenges out there is finding the perfect domain name. So here you have a company name, and now you typically want to match that company name with a domain name. So you go to places like GoDaddy and you find out that that company name that you thought of and it took you forever isn't available. And I'm just here to tell you it's okay if your domain name is not the same as your LLC company name. It's getting harder to find. I do prefer a .com over anything else. Second would be a .net. Basic stuff, set up your office phone, email. Obviously find a quiet room in your house. Most people will probably start there. Obviously, computer, basic phone line. I would say the cell phone, I would say, is probably the number one ask question. Do I get another cell phone? Can I use my own cell phone number? Should I get a different line, an 800 number? My recommendation is always get a local area code. Most of the time, that's where you're going to be doing business. Most people that are trying to sell their homes locally don't like calling 800 numbers, even if you live down the street from them, because now you look like a big company. We don't want to look that way. Social media. Social media people ask me about all the time, and I'm just going to be upfront honest with you. I want you to set it up and I want you to start posting. But I want you to keep in mind that this is more of a long-term solution rather than expecting immediate results. The places I do recommend are Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. If I had to rank all of them, YouTube would probably be my number one place. Not only can you upload videos, but you can upload in your community part of your page content, images, and guess what? It's all searchable by Google, which I really like. Those of you that don't have an REI Pro account, but this is going to be really an essential tool for you to really streamline everything. Obviously, we've got lead generation tools, deal analysis, marketing resources, all the education. We're really going to simplify the process, and you could always set up a free trial with that. Decide your strategies. This to me will probably be the hardest thing because you probably heard of a strategy. You're like, oh, I could go do that. What I thought I would do is actually break down each one for you. Not what's the definition. You can Google a definition. How does it apply to you? And I don't know who you are, I know where some of you are from, just based on what you've chatted in. Let me break this down a little bit different, maybe in a way that you never heard of. And the first thing that I would say is, as far as strategy would be wholesaling. This is where I started. I would say this is probably the easiest strategy to learn, but it's also one of the most competitive. It doesn't require money or credit to buy properties, but it will require a lot of driving, phone calls, and direct mail. The next strategy is what we call rehabbing properties. And of course, you watch any kind of TV, there's always a show on somebody rehabbing a property. Now, this strategy will require financial resources and it carries the highest risk, but it typically offers greater potential profit than wholesaling, right? So we're going to get at a wholesale price. That's where the wholesaler will make a little bit of money. And then the retailer, which would be you, the rehabber, would generally make more money. Now, I will say competition of selling homes today, because it's more of a buyer's market, you need to really pay attention to what you buy the property for, making sure you're running the numbers correctly. And then I would prefer that you sell it a little bit cheaper than what your competition is. You could go to realtor.com, go to Zillow, and see what houses that are comparable are currently listed for sale. See what kind of condition they're in. Next one is what we call lease options or rent to own, lease purchase. To me, it's all the exact same thing. So this strategy typically doesn't require money or credit to purchase a home, but it does involve working in nicer neighborhoods and focusing on homes that really don't need those repairs. It's not really a distressed property. The property has to be livable for somebody that could actually come and lease it with the option to buy. Now, one of the great things about lease options, it can actually generate up to 3 different profit centers. So you have your upfront profit, which would be the difference in option payment or down payment. You'll have cash flow and a back end profit when the new buyer completes the purchase. There's a couple of ways to do lease options. We do explain both in our offer formula and in REI Pro. But most of the time, you're going to be in the middle, what we call a sandwich lease option. So that's a strategy where you deal with nicer homes generally. Okay, so it's not that distressed market. And the last strategy is seller financing. Now, generally requires some money, as most sellers are not going to just take a no money down scenario. Let's just say that some will, and that's okay. But most of the time, you're going to have to put something in the game. However, it's one of the most profitable strategies that there is out there. I want you to think of it's the exact same thing that Chase Bank does, or Regions Bank, Citibank, Wells Fargo. Why do you think the banks usually have the biggest buildings wherever your downtown is? Right? It's because they make interest. It's one of the most profitable ways to invest in real estate. At the end of the day, I want you to learn all of them. I want to just being able to create multiple offers for each property, your acceptance ratio of accepted offers is going to increase. This type of investor is what I call the rich real estate investor, right? Because you don't have that, you're not that one trick pony that the seller says this and you only do wholesaling. Well, then you're out of the deal. You actually have other ways. When we talk about exit strategies, there's a lot of those. Those are going to be your main real estate strategies. Exit strategies are, hey, Chris, I'm going to buy it and rent it. So rent it would be an exit strategy. Or I want a vacation rental. Or I want to get into real estate investment trust. Or Maybe it's a partnership deal, or maybe it's a pre foreclosure deal. You have to understand the hardcore strategy in order to even have an exit strategy. These strategies can also be applied to several types of properties, including single family homes or condos, townhouses, mobile homes, land, commercial, and retail. I don't care what type of property it is. If it's real estate, anything that sits on the land or the land itself to me is real estate. I don't care what it is. These strategies don't change. It's just the real estate changes. Okay, so I want you to think of it that way. Obviously, go through training videos. We have a ton of training videos in REIPro. Of course, I have training videos on all of my social platforms, especially YouTube. And this is kind of a big deal, is to create a schedule. So creating a schedule is probably one of the most important things to me, and is the reason why I provide this to all of my coaching students. No matter if you have 5 hours or 60 hours a week, it is essential to maximize your time by writing down actionable tasks to accomplish. I don't want you to wake up the next day and say, all right, well, what am I doing? Now what? I just want you to write down stuff. When I got started, I took a Post-it note, put it on my bathroom mirror, and just wrote stuff down. I didn't even know if it was things I was supposed to do. There was no, video to watch. There wasn't any material. It's like, you got to go figure it out. So I just started writing stuff down. So each night I'd review it. When I wake up in the morning, I'd review it and I would just go check that to-do list off. And I would keep growing that every single day. And that eventually you learn. You learn what to do, what not to do, what's the wasting your time, and so forth. Continue your education, obviously. Obviously working with a mentor is going to fast track your growth, but learning never ends. I think, I appreciate you attending this particular training because it shows that you want to learn something. Tell me something, teach me something, guide me. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? And those actionable things that we need. There's too many people that just talk about it in their head. We need some actionable things to do and take action, right? This is the key, is to physically do something. Get off the couch and get in your car and drive a neighborhood. I don't care. Or walk down the street, go walking, because your situation is different than other people's situation. But you have to be able to take action at some point if you want to build this business. Just take small steps. Every action, no matter how small, brings you closer to the results you're aiming for. All right, let's talk about seasoned investors. And this could also apply to a lot of people, and especially the new people that are getting started, because, at the end of the day, this is kind of where we're going to shoot for, anyways. But I thought I would share things that I feel that are important, that mean that, that's all that's important. There are other things, but I feel that this would really help a lot of seasoned investors that I do talk with. Number one, ad strategies. I couldn't tell you how many times I talked to someone who's been in the business 20 years and they've done the exact same thing for 20 years. You have to be able to expand your strategies. This is only going to increase the number of deals you complete. I want you to think about this. If you've been focusing, let's just say, on wholesaling, maybe consider adding lease options to the toolbox, or maybe you're in rehabbing, maybe explore seller financing. Ultimately, I want each of you to become knowledgeable in these strategies over time. But of course, if you're just getting started, let's master one of them and then master two of them, master three of them. It took me years to do that. I didn't even know I was doing it until I started doing it. Creative marketing ideas. Everyone is always asking about this, because obviously marketing changes. Like, there's no one marketing fits all approach out there. I'm going to give you an idea of what I mean. This is just one idea, but it's an idea that I have used that I don't see people doing, and it's super simple. When I work with people facing foreclosure, or what we call pre-foreclosure, one of the hardest things to accomplish is getting the owner to contact you. And it's the strangest thing. Here they are in trouble. And I get it. Like, if you're in trouble, you're behind on payments, who do you call? If you feel sick, you go to the doctor. If your car breaks down, you go to a mechanic. But when you're behind on payments, who in the heck do you call? And that's you, right? So if we're sending stuff out, it does make it a little more difficult. So what I do is I actually have a letter that I use that we've created. I also get a post-it note. And this post-it note says, hi, my name is Chris again. Here's my phone number. Call me anytime. And I handwrite that and I slap that on the letter. And then I also throw in a business card. Then here's the creative part. I put the letter, post-it note, and the business card inside of a USPS priority envelope because I know someone's going to open it. It also separates me from the competition that may be sending out the same stuff. It's a little more expensive, but I've realized that people who are facing this situation, the first thing they do? They screen their phone calls because it's not just the bank coming after. They could be behind on credit card bills. So, this is one of many ideas that I want you to be more creative with. And I really don't care how crazy you might think your idea is. You're never going to know until you try it. All right, building a strong social media brand. Like I said, as a new person, I want you to start it. I wouldn't start it expecting results, but if you've been in the business and you've been doing it for quite some time, I want you to post at least 3 times a week. I want you to aim to create videos twice a week. And some of you are like, I'm not getting on a video. You could talk in a video, but what we call B-roll, where it's just images or videos I'm fine with that, but post it. There are many AI tools out there that can help you simplify this process. And most importantly, be sure to include the location of where you invest in your descriptions. I don't care if you take a picture, put it on Instagram. Where are you? Specifically, is it a town? Is it a county? Where are you? Because that's what, if I start posting, as an example, if I say, we'll keep it general. I buy houses, Santa Rosa County, Florida, as an example. When I post that on a YouTube community page, that stuff gets indexed through Google because Google owns YouTube. And now it's searchable. If I keep putting in the location, have you ever looked up like, hey, let's order pizza tonight and you live in Chicago? If you looked up Pizza Hut, they're not going to show you a Pizza Hut in Miami, Florida. Have you noticed that? Right? They're tracking your IP address. They know they want to cater to the people and businesses that are in that particular location because it only makes sense to the people looking for it. And so many investors that start posting stuff never actually put the location of where they are. You're going to relate to the people that live in those locations because that's where you're buying real estate. Automation tools, productivity. Obviously, you've heard the phrase time is money. Did you know that the only thing you cannot buy with money? Do you know what that is? There's only one thing that I'm aware of that you cannot buy with money, and that's time. You can't buy it. So using AI tools, obviously you have Chat GPT. I can tell you we use a company called Jasper. This is going to save you so much time trying to figure it out. This tool and tools out there can really help speed up that process for you. Because a lot of you, especially if you're getting started, or maybe you don't have a lot of people on your team, you have to figure all this stuff out. So, this is really going to set you apart from a lot of other investors out there. Expand your target location. Maybe you should venture outside the big city and target smaller towns, or maybe you're in a smaller town, you want to invest in another state. Whichever it is, just expand your market. Obviously, it's going to increase the amount of deals that you could do. The strategies, obviously, there's a few states that have particulars, which I won't get into, but the majority of states, you'll be able to apply all strategies that we've talked about. Private money. Now, if you've been in the business, you probably know what this means. In other words, we OPM, right? As you grow your business, you're going to run into a lot of people. I have built my entire power team like in the first 12 months when I got started years ago. It's like my power team is like even enormous now because I'm not looking for it. I run into it. And the more that you're in the business, people are always going to be like, okay, how are you doing this? Well, what's the return? How much money are you making? There's always people that are looking to make more money. And a lot of these individuals that have money, they have full-time jobs or they own their own company. They don't have time to do it, but they want to invest. They want to make money. And generally, real estate can create not only a great return, but a fast return. If I borrow, as an example, this would be ideal for me. If I borrow, get private money, let's say for 300 grand, I can pay 10% interest on it. Now, that sounds like a lot. Like people would say, yeah, but maybe I can go to the bank, get less than 10. Maybe you can, but you're going to have to qualify. You're going to have to show W-2. You're going to have to do a lot of things. I, on the other hand, don't look at it as 10% interest. So 10% interest would be 30 grand a year, right? So I'd borrow the money for a minimum of 1 year. I would take the 300 grand and I would do a deal within the first 3 months and make money. And then I'd take that exact same 300 grand and I'd do it again. I'm going to do it as many times as I possibly can. I might go buy a house, rehab it, sell it, do it again, do it again. I'm going to keep doing that over the course of 12 months because at the end of the day, I only owe 30 grand. But if I'm making 30 grand on profit on each deal, the 30 grand isn't really the key point to me. Borrowing the money is not like, oh, well, if, it's 30 grand a year. It sounds expensive. Well, not if you keep reusing the 300 grand over and over. Because if I buy a house, and I'm just using 300 grand as an example, buy a house, rehab it, and I make 30 grand. I also got back the 300 grand that I put into the deal. And then I take that same 300 and I do it again, do it again. I keep doing it as many times as possible. Obviously, that interest is really not that big of a deal because it won't be 10% by the end of the year. It would only be 10% to me if I really didn't do anything. So now I got to come up with 10%. So I'm reusing the same money. And there's a lot of ways you could structure private money. Other business opportunities. This is pretty cool. I can tell you one of my students just ran across this like 2 weeks ago. She's in real estate, but she ran across this cafe that has an apartment over the top, and the owner of the cafe actually lives in the apartment. He wants to sell the business, wants to do something different. He's decorated it. It generates enough money to make sense to buy. He's asking less for the business and building than actually what the building is actually worth, which sounds crazy, but that's how businesses sometimes are sold. So you can only make so much money with the current business that you can't ask for $5 million for a business if it doesn't generate enough cash to pay for it. So, but the building itself is worth more than the business. Now, could she remodel the entire thing? Absolutely. Turn it into something different? Absolutely. Or you could just take the business over. And this is something that she is going through. I want you to look at me. I have multiple businesses, but I'm in real estate. I do real estate investing. I have real estate education. Twice a year, I do coaching. I have a software company, and I've owned restaurants before. Like, we've owned realty companies before, almost bought a golf course before. Real estate opens other opportunities. I remember, the founder of McDonald's, like, I'm not in the hamburger business, I'm in the real estate business, right? Well, I don't know. He's done pretty well with the hamburger stuff. There are other opportunities that could come about just by being in real estate. This is something I do, so I wanted to share. Nobody really talks about, and I'm going to give you an actual example of what I call cherry picking deals here. Here's an example. This is one type of cherry picking that I personally do. I will look for a property, generally it's single family, but it could be something else. It must be within 2 blocks of a beach. It either is in pre-foreclosure or was an expired listing. They must be open to seller financing it, even if it's only a portion of the purchase price. And when I look for very specific deals, it does narrow my exit strategy, but that's why I cherry pick. I can be creative with people. I understand the strategies. I know how to pick a different market. I could go out of state. There's a lot of different things you could do with experience. And this is a really good tip for those that are seasoned investors. Add credibility. Maybe start a podcast. Maybe you don't have a YouTube channel. Maybe write a book or hang out with successful people. Get a picture with them. Maybe interview on a local news channel. And most importantly, post all of your testimonials from all of your deals, of all of your deals out there, the deals that you've helped people. They were in a specific situation, and guess what? You helped them out. And the last year are going to be the same as the previous, creating a schedule, continue the education. Maybe some of you need some personal help. And most importantly, whatever you decide out of this list to maybe add to what you're currently doing, I want you to be able to take action with it, which I think is super important. All right, so here's the deal. This is actually one of my students' deals. Just got this under contract, by the way. And now that I've shared with you just a couple of tips from maybe somebody getting started in real estate and some tips where maybe you've been in real estate, I'm going to give you the very basics of this. And I want you to just maybe imagine, what would you do? So the ARV on this property is 1.1 million. We estimate about 120 grand in repairs if you were to fix it up in tip-top shape and actually sell it. The contract price we have it under contract for is 785. And I want you to think about, are you the person in maybe a position where maybe you don't have a lot of money, maybe you don't have access to money, maybe you could wholesale this, because you could surely wholesale this. I think, if you look at the potential profits, I think depending on what you do, you could make this range of money just on this one property. And this is a property that had a hard time selling. This is an out of state owner. I'm not going to give you the address, but I will tell you it's in St. Louis, only because my student just put this under contract. So, hey, if you're interested, maybe you're in the St. Louis area, here's the deal. It's in a great area, by the way. Most importantly, the reason why I wanted to share this with you is based on your situation. What would you do with it? You could wholesale this. Could you rehab it? Maybe you have access to money and you could go in and rehab this, put this back on the market and resell it. Maybe you choose a different way. So you have it under contract for 785. Maybe you could buy it and maybe use creative financing to get rid of it. There's a lot of different things that you could do with one opportunity, but if you only know one way, that's all you got. So I could put this under contract. Let's assume I have zero money. I put it under contract to wholesale, but I don't wholesale it. Maybe I go into a partnership with somebody that does have money, and maybe that could be my first rehab. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at a property. This is just one example, but most importantly, just wanted you to think about your situation, where you are, and what could you do with it. All right, so let's talk about risks, challenges. I'm going to give you a few pointers, and I feel that this is going to help you make 2025. It could be the biggest year. So many opportunities. And we're going to talk about those opportunities. But number one, we've talked about learn multiple strategies. That's a key. I don't want you to be in a position that you only know it one way. If you're a beginner, you're going to learn one way, but jump into another way. Understand your exit strategies. This is the one thing that I love about REIPro. We have a deal analyzer in there called REIPro. It analyzes each one of the strategies we've talked about in multiple different ways so you can see which exit strategy is best based on your situation. Some people are like, Chris, I don't need all the cash today, and I can see that I can make more money if my exit strategy was this. Some people are like, Chris, I need cash today. So, all right, well, your exit strategy is this. You get to go in and actually look at a property in multiple different ways with multiple different exit strategies to really determine which way is the best. Obviously, the seller has to take the offer, got it. But if you understand how to present that, now you're in a position of the seller trying to figure out which one of those offers they want to take. If you only offer one offer, it's easy to say no, or it's easy to say yes. If you offer multiple different ways to buy the property, that could open up multiple ways to get rid of the property, which we call exit strategies. Financing. Obviously, borrowing money is expensive right now. So maybe you should be focusing on seller financing as a strategy, or maybe even private money. Or maybe you have a credit card with 0% interest. I used credit cards to rehab houses when I was getting started. So I didn't really have that kind of access. Our very first rehab deal, I used a credit card. I think credit cards can be really good if used properly. And sometimes people don't even think about a credit card. If you're wondering, which nobody really ever asked this question, but I can tell you my favorite credit card in business is an Amex, hands down, which is the platinum because I actually get a percentage back. You get points. I mean, we have millions of points that we have accumulated, but points you can get at national Home Depots and Lowe's, the things that you're actually going to buy if you're in real estate, which is nice. Educate yourself one step at a time, as I say. Don't think you have to understand everything all at once. I want you to start with a strategy and then add them as you perfect the one before. Set realistic goals. To me, realistic goals are not the huge aspirations we often discuss in our minds, right? Nor are they the minimal targets set, so low that they provide an excuse to fail. Instead, I want you to look at it, it's somewhere in between. And this is obviously going to vary for everybody. Some people have different goals. I've had people that, sign up for coaching and like, Chris, just teach me how to buy one house so I don't make a financial mistake. Some people that come on to coaching, hey, they just want to make this thing the biggest thing ever. Everybody has different goals. I want them to be realistic, not the goals that we talk about in our head, but also not the ones that, oh, well, I don't want to set them too high just in case it doesn't work. Like you can't even have that mindset because there isn't a single business you could get in with that mindset. And obviously, for those of you, find the right mentor. Now, I'm going to give you some tips. I call them the best tips, but they're the best tips that I could come up with. And the first tip is I want you to find, we talk about, lead generation is always key. If you follow me, I always say spend 90% of your time finding the deals, period. But what I'm really saying is finding situations. You could find the best deals on the planet, but the owner doesn't want to sell because they're not in a situation. Obviously, there has to be a physical structure, or if it could be just land. You're finding those things, but you're really looking for the situation of the ownership. That determines, number one, are they even going to sell the property? Number two, what they're going to sell it for. And number three, how they're even going to sell it to you, which sounds funny to people that aren't in real estate. But I don't have to buy a property for all cash. I may be able to structure what we call a terms deal. How much down, how much a month, and how long can I do it for? The situation of the owner always determines this. Number two, I want you to focus on seller financing for a while. This is a huge, huge opportunity for people. Not only is it one of the most profitable strategies, and look, I get it. Not everyone's going to say yes, but you need to make the offer or ask them, would you consider taking payment short term? You don't go to a seller and say, hey, would you seller finance that? Because they have no idea what you're talking about. You want to keep this simple in the beginning. This strategy is one of our main strategies that we're working. See, the strategies never change. The market changes, the economy changes. Things like that change, but the strategy doesn't. It's knowing when to implement the strategy in the time. I want you to think about this for a second. There are houses that are selling, but there are a lot of houses that are not selling. Forget about all the off-market stuff. Let's just look at the on-market stuff. What does the owner do when the house doesn't sell? Generally, they could lower the price. That's one option. It doesn't sell, maybe they rent it. That's an option. They decide not to sell it anymore. That's an option. If you could take over the payments, take care of the maintenance costs, repairs, taxes, toilets, headaches, all that stuff that comes along with owning a property, and they're willing to finance it, if not maybe a portion of it, that's huge. You don't have to go to a bank and beg to borrow a loan. Doesn't go on your credit report. Doesn't go on your credit report. You could buy as many as you can get your hands on. It just makes sense. Rehabbing sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, we will probably do more rehabs this year than the last two. You know how everybody's like, hey, things are going to change in January. It's a new year. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to do the right things. I'm going to put myself in a position to succeed. We have all these things that we want to do. That motivates people. As the interest rates start to come down, guess what? More properties are going to sell. The problem is we only have so many properties to sell versus the buyers. We as Americans will get over the fact that the interest rate is X number. Last year, especially 23, was the most difficult because it just jumped up so much. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't even afford anything. We will do more rehabs next year than the previous two. Look for private money. And like I said, you reuse the money over and over again. That's going to set you up for huge success. Now, if you're just getting started, this may be a little more difficult because maybe you don't know anyone. Okay. But in time, you will. Expired listings. We talked about the houses that sit on the market, they don't sell. I can tell you, the last 6 deals came through those. People get frustrated, doesn't sell. Realtor said this, said that, doesn't happen. It's the market. But here's the thing, people aren't even lowering the prices that much. But if you find the right situation combined with expired listings, you're going to find good deals, just like the one I just showed you in that case study. Multiple strategies, big deal. I want you to understand multiple. And I've preached that probably enough tonight that it's going to stick. All right, here's some cool stuff. Those of you that are in REI Pro, nobody's actually even seen this. No one's talked about it. It's something we've been working on for quite some time. Super excited to get this out. We really revamped our lead generation portion of the platform. And we will soon have active listings, failed, canceled listings. We've introducing new filters and a whole new area statistics session. These updates are really designed to bring you more comprehensive data. It's going to be a better search capabilities and just these powerful market insights that's really going to transform how we search for properties. Because, if you don't have a property, you're not in business. Just like a website, you're not in business, but you have to have a deal in front of you to make this work. So we have listened to you. We have taken in all of the suggestions that have been submitted to our customer service. We personally go through these suggestions to obviously make sure that number one, can we do it? Number two, does it benefit kind of more of a nationwide standpoint because we're in all 50 states? And if we can, we implement it. And that's kind of the beauty. And I'm super excited to get this out to you. It is in programming right now, and we are shooting for January to release this. Obviously, we'll give you the official release date as we get a little bit closer. I know, it's not even that far out, actually. So we're super excited. If you're not an REI Pro subscriber, you can sign up for free, 14-day free trial. You can go to myreipro.com. So also just wanted to let people know that I did open up coaching. We've had several people email the company, why is it not available? And I get it. A lot of people don't understand how I do coaching. This is an opportunity. You work directly with me. This is not a coaching program that you work with somebody that I paid to teach you. I don't do coaching that way. I do all the coaching. It's very personal to me. That's why I call it personal coaching. I only take a limited number of people because I only have so much time in the day. I dedicate that time to those particular students. And when slots are filled, as a lot of people have seen, I have to put you on a waiting list or it just closes, unfortunately. And I'm not just saying that to make you jump. That's just the reality of it. Maybe you need to fast track, or maybe you know what, Chris, I don't want to make mistakes. I can't afford to make a mistake. This might be your best opportunity right here. And I usually open it up in early December, like I am this year. So get a call with me. I personally talk to you. I want to, talk about your goals. What are you looking to do? Where do you live? What are the challenges? How many hours do you have? What specific goals are you looking at? What's your situation? Those are things that you can work with somebody, on a human level, as I call it. It's the one-on-one. And we do this communication in various ways, but I'm going to actually really help walk you through. It's like holding your hand through the process. Obviously, we don't want to make any kind of financial mistakes doing real estate. We'll obviously talk about those. Some key takeaways. Obviously, staying informed on what's going on in the world. We have a lot of data. We have a lot of statistics in REI Pro, but what's going on at a local level? What are you hearing? What new commercial concepts maybe are coming to town? Is there a Costco coming? I think you just need to be involved in trying to figure. A lot of stuff is kind of posted on Facebook. You go to local government sites as well to see what maybe has been approved to come into your area. And I think if you understand the area better, this is why I tell people to get in the car, just go drive different neighborhoods you've never been in. I want you to understand what those neighborhoods are like, what are the price points, what are the rent prices in those areas. I want you to understand the area that you're working in. Obviously, networking is always good, continued education. Maybe there's a local RIA that you can attend. Usually, you can find really good people at the RIAs. Implement creative financing strategies. So, here's exactly, I'm going to give you one awesome tip right here. This is exactly what I do. I go to REIPro, we go to LeadPro, which is our lead generation. You could search obviously a lot of different types of real estate there. But generally, what I'll do is I'll pull what's called an absentee owner and a vacant lead. Obviously, pick the location. Those are the two types. So what we call stacking it. So they have to meet both criteria. Number one, it has to be an absentee. Number two, it has to be vacant. And then I go through the filters. The most important filter when I talk about creative financing, which I'm really talking about seller financing here, is I want to go to the last sold date. And you could do a custom sold date in REI Pro in the filters. And I want you to choose the years of 2000. You could go 18, but I'm going to tell you 2019 through 2021. And you could go 22, but there's going to be a lag there, a bad spot. And what I'm talking about is this: the lowest interest rates ever in history are between those years. If I could find an absentee vacant property and negotiate a seller finance with a 3% interest rate, that's a home run because you can't borrow that kind of money anymore. Obviously, I do other filters. They have to have minimum 50% equity. I take out HELOCs. There's some other filters there that I do apply. But the most important one is the last sold date. When did they buy it? Now, I don't know why they're selling it. I don't know why or I don't even know if it's for sale. I don't know why it's considered vacant. Did they move? Did they get a job transfer? Did they lose the job? There could be various reasons, but those are the properties that I want to market to and talk to, because I know for sure that I could structure a seller finance offer, assuming that they're open to it, right? They have to be open to it. But I know if they're paying 2.85% interest on that loan, the payment's really low. That opens up every possible exit strategy if I can get that payment low. Surely much better than going to the bank and borrowing at 7%. So if I can get that particular property, maybe that you call that cherry picking, but that's a very specific thing that I'm looking for. Now, maybe we buy the property with cash. Maybe that's what they accept. I'm just saying it opens the door for seller financing, which is awesome. And if you're just getting started, just, look at entry level properties. Single family home could be a duplex. Obviously, using tools like REI Pro to analyze deal, ensure they align with your goals. So I'm super excited about this year. I'm super excited about the changes that are coming to REI Pro. We are going to see so many good things from the investment side, but it's going to lean, my opinion, lean more to the creative side. There's still wholesale property opportunities out there. Just depends on where you live at the end of the day. And wholesaling to me is just buying it at wholesale. Sure, you could wholesale $1 million property, right? It's not the general types of properties we do, but they're there, right? It's just like a needle in a haystack approach where I like to send at least my students to more what we call a C neighborhood, the middle of the road as far as price point, and just below that, that's where you're going to see the distressed opportunities. When you get to the creative financing side of it, it's a whole different world. It opens up literally so many other types of properties that are also valued very high. Like, I personally like working with more expensive properties because I know that they generally have a larger profit. Even though the pool of buyers are small, I know that once I sell it, there's going to be a better potential profit, because most of those expensive homes, you got to put down a bunch of money. So I already know they have some equity in the property. And of course, I can look at all that information in REI Pro. I can see what their mortgage is, what they took out. I can see where their payment is. I have an advantage already going into the deal, even though it's what we call more expensive property. Like if you're in Los Angeles or New York or something, I mean, you can't even buy a bathroom for $100,000. Right. So I get it. But other areas, $1 million properties, like, the rich people, they have the big, beautiful homes. Those are the properties that I like to look for, because you know what? It doesn't matter if you live in $100,000 house or $1 million house. When you go through something in your life that causes you to, I need to sell. That's all I need to hear is that part. And that's what, I call that cherry picking part too. I still deal with a lot of properties that are really below the middle price point. They tend to be great rehabs depending on the neighborhoods. I've always said this, maybe take this away. I don't care what the economy's doing. I don't care what the market's doing. Don't care if it's a buyer's market. Don't really care if it's a seller's market because I don't deal with typical properties. I don't deal with homeowners looking to maximize the value of their home when they're selling it. I'm looking for the situations. Those are the deals that make you rich. I know when there's problems out in the world, there's more opportunity that's going to happen. Anyways, thank you guys so much for attending. I'm glad you could join us. Please share your thoughts. Love to hear about it, how we can get better, how we can improve. Love your suggestions. And, as always, just being upfront and honest with you guys. And I wish you guys the best. And if you're not on the next session, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It's going to be I'm looking forward to 2025. It's like, all right, let's move on.